Tonight, Vice President Harris blasting former President Trump, calling him unfit, unstable, as both candidates focus their closing arguments on each other. Harris on the attack after Trump received sharp criticism from his former chief of staff, who said flat out that Trump could be called a fascist. Former President Trump firing back as he campaigns in battleground Georgia. Both candidates working to court Latino voters as well, where that critical demographic stands. And as more Americans cast their ballots, could this election hinge on North Carolina? We'll explain. Also tonight, the Department of Justice issuing a stern warning to Elon Musk over his $1 million voter giveaways. The letter just sent to the tech mogul and staunch Trump supporters saying his prizes in swing states could be illegal. We're breaking down what could happen if Musk did violate federal election law. Campaign sign warfare, a man arrested for lining posters with razor blades and suspicious bags of white powder. A neighborhood on edge after an anti-Harris sign was rigged with tripwire and even alarms. And one family even putting a tracker in their poster after it was stolen several times. The troubling increase in sign stealers fueling this political divide. The sweeping investigation into McDonald's deadly E. coli outbreak. Doctors warning they expect the number of cases to rise after several people were hospitalized. Are the onions in the franchise's iconic quarter pounders to blame? The urgent search underway after a passenger went overboard while on a Taylor Swift-themed cruise. What we're learning about the moment in question. Plus, for the love of the game, a diehard New York Yankee fan dipping into his wedding fund to score World Series tickets. That man shelling out nearly $10,000 for a spot in the stadium. We speak with him and his fiancée about how he asked her for permission in the hopes of landing himself both a championship ring and eventually a wedding ring. And troops from North Korea possibly joining Russia in the fight against Ukraine. How this could change the state of that war. Top story starts right now. All right, good evening. Tonight, both presidential campaigns sharpening their attacks as the race enters the final sprint. With just 13 days to go, Vice President Kamala Harris with a fiery speech going after former President Trump after his former White House chief of staff told the New York Times Trump meets the definition of a fascist. Vice President Harris and former President Trump in key battleground states today. Harris meeting with voters in Pennsylvania ahead of her town hall tonight with CNN, while Trump held the town hall this afternoon in central Georgia. Right now, his rally in Duluth just getting underway. Tonight, Georgia is still up for grabs. Both Harris and Trump locked in a razor-tight race in the state, which President Biden narrowly won in 2020. Both campaigns, also a reminder, battling out over North Carolina. Tonight, I'm going to break down the key counties to watch in this critical battleground state and what voters are expected to do and how they might surprise us as well. At this hour, there are more and more voters that are coming in. They're early voting tonight at this hour. Ballots are pouring in. More than 21 million Americans casting their votes early. We spoke with several Democrats voting early in West Virginia about what it's like for them voting in a reliably red state.
We prefer to think of ourselves as delightful blueberries in a delightful strawberry patch.
I'm amazed that my yard signs haven't been stolen because they have in the past, but I will take them down on November the 5th because I figure that win or lose in this state will be a target.
And what you just heard there, we're going to have much more on the campaign sign warfare shortly. Meantime, also voting early today, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his son Gus Walz casting their ballots, of course, for the Democratic ticket. His son voting for his own dad as a first-time voter. Both Harris and Trump wrapping up their campaigns at epic venues. Former President Trump hosting a rally at New York's Madison Square Garden this weekend, while Harris announced she'll deliver a closing argument speech at the National Mall, the same site where former President Trump spoke shortly before the January 6th Capitol riot. We have much to get to this evening. NBC Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander starts us off tonight.
Tonight, Vice President Harris seizing on sharp new criticisms of former President Trump from his own former Chief of Staff, John Kelly, who now publicly says Trump could be called a fascist.
This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best.
Harris using retired four-star Marine General Kelly's words to fortify her argument that Trump is unfit to serve.
Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
Kelly making his new claims 2 weeks before Election Day in an interview with the New York Times.
Certainly, the former president is in the far right area. He's certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure.
Kelly also claiming Trump made complimentary statements about Nazi leader Adolf Hitler.
He commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. Well, I tell him that. I said, first of all, you should never say that. Nothing he did, you could argue, was good.
The Atlantic reports that 2 unnamed sources say they heard then-President Trump say, "I need the kind of generals that Hitler had, people who are totally loyal to him, that follow orders." NBC News has not independently confirmed that reporting, and the Trump campaign says Trump never made those comments. Kelly says he's speaking out now because Trump recently suggested using the military against political opponents, who he called the enemy from within if there's Election Day chaos. Kelly became a fierce Trump critic after leaving the White House, and the Trump campaign tonight responded, quote, "John Kelly has totally beclowned himself with these debunked stories he has fabricated," insisting Kelly has Trump derangement syndrome. Trump was recently asked about several former top staff members who've come out against him.
About 97% of the people in the administration support me, but because it's me, somebody doesn't support, they get a little publicity.
And late tonight, Donald Trump just posted about John Kelly on his social media page, saying that Kelly is a, quote, total degenerate who, in his words, made up a story out of pure Trump derangement syndrome hatred, saying he is both tough and dumb. Tom?
Yeah, Trump appearing to still fight battles that he had fought in 2016, now in 2024. Peter, I do want to ask you about the speech that's coming up with Vice President Harris for a moment. Can you tell our viewers what we can expect next week?
Yeah, so a senior Harris campaign official is telling us that, as you note, Kamala Harris is going to deliver this speech next Tuesday, 1 week from Election Day in Washington, D.C. And notably, it's going to happen in the very same spot where Donald Trump delivered his remarks the morning of the January 6th Capitol attack. We are told by this official that Harris is expected to focus on, to make the argument that Americans should turn the page from Donald Trump's era of, in her words, or this official's words, chaos and division. In simple terms, their effort is try to sort of cast a distinction between the two, putting up against Donald Trump's worst moment, or certainly in their eyes one of them, against what they describe as a more hopeful, optimistic vision from Kamala Harris. Tom.
Okay, Peter Alexander leading us off. Peter, we appreciate that. We want to stick with politics tonight. One of former President Trump's biggest supporters, billionaire business leader Elon Musk, facing new scrutiny tonight from the Department of Justice for that $1 million giveaway we reported. The department sending a letter to Musk warning him his plan may be illegal. NBC senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett takes a look.
What started as a swing state giveaway by tech billionaire Elon Musk has now earned the attention of the U.S. Justice Department.
I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election.
The Tesla CEO, who has been ramping up his support for former President Donald Trump, making that $1 million offer Saturday. The petition, a pledge to support First and Second Amendment rights, but receiving the prize money is contingent on being registered to vote in the 7 key battleground states expected to decide the election. A source familiar with the matter telling NBC News the Justice Department sent a letter to Musk's super PAC warning that giveaway may be illegal. Federal law prohibits paying people to register to vote.
Take over, Elijah!
Musk donating nearly $75 million to his pro-Trump super PAC since July. The PAC's treasurer tonight not responding to a message left by NBC News. The Justice Department declined to comment. Vice President Kamala Harris dismissing the $1 million giveaway in an interview with Hallie Jackson Monday.
I'm not about doing it gimmicks and all of that. I think that what
With that, Laura Jarrett joins us now in studio. So, Laura, we were talking about this with Garrett Haake about whether this is illegal or not. It's sort of a gray area. What do you think happens?
So it depends on who you talk to. Some election experts will say, look, the fact that he sort of couched it in this giveaway having to do with First and Second Amendment rights, it's not about voting, so he might have protected himself a little bit there by not just giving someone cash to register to vote. Other people will say, look, his intent was clear. He's already got a bunch of people who managed to get the prize money already. And so I think the bottom line, though, is he's not going to get prosecuted before November 5th. And so the upshot here, especially with the registration date having already passed, may not matter as much for going forward.
Okay, Laura Jarrett first. Laura, we appreciate that. And on the trail tonight, the Trump campaign firing back at controversial comments from President Joe Biden. This is the candidates' duel over the all-important Latino vote. NBC's Garrett Haake is covering this one.
Tonight, former President Trump in battleground Georgia, talking about shutting down the border if he's elected.
It'll be done in the first hour of the first day.
While the Trump campaign is slamming President Biden following these comments overnight, appearing to reference Trump's legal troubles.
We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up. Lock him out. That's what we have to do.
The Trump campaign saying, quote, Joe Biden just admitted the truth. He and Kamala's plan all along has been to politically persecute their opponent, President Trump. The White House responding late today.
He said politically lock him out. That is what he was referring to.
Meanwhile, there's growing focus tonight on the critical Latino vote. Vice President Harris was pressed about immigration on Telemundo.
There's nobody, no Democrat, talking about pathway to citizenship, an immigration relief, and that. What do you stand on mass deportations? What's your stand there?
We need smart, humane immigration policy in America that includes a pathway to citizenship, putting more resources at the border.
The top issue for Latino voters, according to a recent NBC News Telemundo poll, is the cost of living. The Harris campaign organizing outreach with bilingual phone banks and WhatsApp groups and blanketing both the television and radio airwaves with Spanish-language ads. As the Trump campaign looks to build on what has been a 17-point shift by Latinos towards Republicans since 2008, according to exit polls. Trump's son Don Jr. stumped in Phoenix today at an event targeting Latino voters.
What do you think about your father's message connects with Latino voters?
So, I think it's probably, a community that was, frankly, always conservative. They just didn't necessarily know it that way.
Cheryl Rosado is voting for Trump.
He seems like a truly genuine person. What you see is what you get. It resonates with people.
Joshua Flores cast his ballot for Vice President Harris.
I see a lot more of her policies benefiting Latinos, not just myself, but as a whole.
Okay, Garrett Haake joins us once again from the campaign trail, this time in Scottsdale, Arizona, Maricopa County. Garrett, we're going to talk Latino voters in a moment, but I have a big picture question for you. We're less than 2 weeks out. Anything you're picking up as far as crowds, travel, or message on the Republican side that stands out?
One thing I've noticed, Tom, is, on election day in typical years, that we get into sort of what are you hearing territory, where every campaign operative is asking every reporter what we know about what's going on the ground. The early vote sort of spectrum that we're in now, where so many people are voting early, but it doesn't look like 2020 when people felt like they had to, is causing that one-day phenomenon to extend out for weeks. I've been talking to operatives in both campaigns who are asking a lot of the same questions that our viewers are. What are you hearing? What's going on? Who's at the voting? Who's at the polling places? Everyone is trying to piece together a picture of an electorate that nobody is really sure how it will be comprised by the time the voting is finished 2 weeks from now. I think we're all still wrapping our heads around what that's going to look like in a post-COVID era. Tom, everyone's guessing at this point, and it's leading to a lot of interesting decisions by campaigns about where to go and when.
It's a great point. Okay, Garrett Haake first. Garrett, we appreciate that. As Garrett just mentioned, both candidates are focusing the remaining days of the campaign, reaching out to Latino voters. Here is more from Telemundo. Julio Vaquero's sit down with Vice President Harris on former President Trump's attacks on her and her challenges appealing to Latino men.
Latino voters come from countries like Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. They escaped their countries due to socialism.
And dictatorship.
And as you know, President Donald Trump has defined you as an extreme socialist that will destroy this country. So where do you stand? How do you define yourself? As a progressive, as a socialist, as a moderate? How do you define yourself to these voters?
I am a capitalist. I am a pragmatic capitalist. I believe that we need a new generation of leadership in America that actively works with the private sector to build up the new industries of America, to build up small business owners, to allow us to increase home ownership, to allow people and their families to build intergenerational wealth. I believe in supporting workers.
Paul suggests that you're having shortcomings with Latinos, specifically with Latino men. Why do you think that President Donald Trump has been able to make those gains with Latinos?
Listen, Donald Trump has, when he was president, had policies that I think have been very harmful to working people. You know, he gave tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations. He will do that again.
But why is he winning with Latino voters? Not winning, but, you know, winning more voters.
But this is not my experience. My experience is I talk with Latino voters every day, all the time. And there is an incredible amount of support there, because Latino voters understand that they want a president of the United States who treats all people with dignity, with respect, and invests in their dreams for themselves and their family. Donald Trump, what did we get from him as president? Family separation policies, deriding and speaking ill of people of certain backgrounds. We look at what he intends to do with Project 2025. I urge your viewers to Google Project 2025. He would cap the cost of we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Latinos are 70% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. He would get rid of our cap.
Okay, with that, I want to bring in our panel tonight to discuss this. Paola Ramos is an MSNBC and Telemundo contributor and author of the new book, Defectors, The Rise of the Latino Far Right and What It Means for America. And Carlos Trujillo, he's an advisor to the Trump 2024 campaign and a former ambassador to the Organization of American States. Paola, I'm going to start with you. I want to put some stats up for our viewers so they can kind of understand this more. Recent NBC News polling shows this, right? 54% voting for Harris, Latino voters, with a slight edge over former President Trump's 40%. Remember that 54% number, okay? Let's go to the other elections. According to Pew Research, in 2020, Joe Biden won 63% against Donald Trump, 32%. 2016, Hillary Clinton, 66%. So we go from 66 to 63 to that number that we mentioned, 54. What is happening with Latino voters and the Democratic Party?
That's the big question. Like, I still do believe, as the polls show, that the vice president will win the Latino vote, as Democrats have historically done. But I also believe that Donald Trump will continue to make inroads. And I think understanding that two stories can be true at once is important. I think the biggest difference, Tom, between now and 2016 and 2020 is that the Trump campaign has understood that that anti-immigrant message, that send them back logo, the build the wall, that message they've understood also resonates with Latino voters. I think one of the interesting things...
Do you think it's that? You don't think it's the economy? You don't think it's inflation?
No, absolutely. I think the economy has always been one of the most important issues for Latino voters. I think the economic anxiety is very real. But I think the difference is, the nuance is that they have understood that that anti-immigrant message works. Why? Because, as the polls are also underscoring, a majority of Latinos are simply not insulted by any of that language. They do not see themselves reflected in that send them back, right? There's a difference between themselves, sort of understanding that they are Latino Americans, and them, right, the immigrants. And I think that nuance is different. That nuance works in Miami-Dade County. They also understand that it works in Arizona, in Nevada. And I think that, to me, is one of the biggest differences now.
Carlos, I want to talk to you about where the Latino voters are going to make the biggest difference in those battleground states. Because when we talk about some of these states, you're talking about tens of thousands of votes that made a difference, percentage points that made a difference, right? So if Trump makes a play for these Latino voters, in which states do you think it's going to make a real difference?
Well, I think in Arizona, Tom, it's going to make a significant difference. I think he takes Arizona, and it's a lot of it with the support of the African-American and Hispanic community. I think in Nevada, it's going to be very, very tight. But if he does take the advantage in Nevada, it'll also be with the same demographic. And Pennsylvania and Georgia, President Trump lost by 10,000 votes, more or less, in Georgia. That number could easily be picked up by just its differences you've shown in your polling with the support from Hispanics for the former president.
What is the Trump sort of effort machine, political machine, when it comes to Latino voters? I mean, you're one of an advisor who's Latino, who's closest to the president. What have you seen from the Trump campaign?
Well, it's focused on the issues, Tom. Hispanics want economic prosperity. Hispanics are affected by inflation. Hispanics don't like open borders and chaos. So I think as he's focused on the issues and sincerity that he's had on these issues, it's given him a significant advantage. And even seeing Vice President Harris's interview earlier, the lack of sincerity on message and the lack of sincerity on policy, I think most of Hispanics see right through it, as one of your previous segments showed.
Paola, I want to ask you about that. In Garrett's piece, Julio's questions about the path to citizenship, about mass deportations. I mean, those aren't tough questions for a Democrat, and yet it was I was sort of lost in trying to understand what she was trying to say.
Tiptoed around it.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because that, at least for her party and to motivate her Latino Democrats, she has to make sure she's on the same page with them.
I had the same reaction, and we mentioned Arizona. So let's think about some of the Arizona voters, right? In a battleground state like Arizona, there are so many mixed status families. And let's remember that Joe Biden wins that state in 2020 by less than 1% of the vote. I believe that part of that success was driven by a cohort of Latino voters that believed Joe Biden when he led with the message that promised them comprehensive immigration reform, and when his closing campaign argument in 2020 was very much around distancing himself from Donald Trump's cruelty at the border. That was so much of the language that we were hearing 4 years from now. And so, to your point, I think they are expecting a vice president that when she is asked about mass deportations, she can forcefully say, I'm against that. They're not hearing that. And so I do think this is where it will get interesting, and whether the question of will that moderate, sort of more conservative tone around immigration, will that work in a battleground state like Arizona? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Carlos, you were the ambassador to the Organization of American States. I want to talk about Miami-Dade County for a bit and your experience in Latin America, because I believe Miami-Dade County is sort of the unofficial capital of Latin America, if you will. So here's the voting record. I want to put this up for our viewers. We see in 2016, Clinton won by 29 points. This is Miami-Dade County. In 2020, Biden only won by 7 points. And then in 2022, in the governor's race, the Republican there, Ron DeSantis, wins by 11 points. So that county essentially flips. My question to you is this: what's happening there? Because you just don't have Cuban Americans in Miami-Dade. You have Venezuelans, Colombians, Brazilians. What's going on in Miami-Dade that maybe could tell a bigger story nationally? Or maybe it doesn't.
Well, I think what you see in Miami-Dade County, I think it's very reflective of nationally, is the middle class in Dade County and across a lot of middle class neighborhoods in America have been crushed with rising inflation, the rising cost of consumer goods. And they're voting with their pocketbook. I think where Miami's a bit different is a lot of the Hispanics in Miami have fled communism. They fled Cuba, they fled Nicaragua, they fled Venezuela. And even a recent poll that came out a few hours ago from Florida International University, President Trump now enjoys the support of 66% of the Cuban American community. With that support alone, which is a 10% increase from Ron DeSantis' support in 2022, we predict that President Trump will win Miami-Dade County come November.
And Paolo, you'll remember when Barack Obama was president, there were several stories written about young Cuban Americans voting for Obama, becoming Democrats. What is the Harris-Walz campaign doing right? Are they doing some things right when it comes to Latino voters?
Yeah, look, I think they've understood the nuance, right? They've understood that you can talk to Latinos not just in Spanish, but also in English. They've understood that you just don't have to go on Telemundo and Univision. You can also, go on social media. And I do think, and what I've heard from some organizers on the ground, is that in the face of a Donald Trump that is constantly dehumanizing immigrants, what I've heard is that they're aching for someone that really leans into her immigrant story with a little bit more force, right? That really sort of reminds the country that she, too, is a daughter of immigrants. And I think many see that as a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Carlos, I want to ask you, there's been a lot of reporting this week about former President Trump's time in the White House. And there was a report in The Atlantic about a phrase he used talking about a service member whose funeral he had promised to pay for. I'm not going to repeat the vile phrase, but it's been out there. I'm sure you're familiar with it. You've gotten to know the former president very well. You've worked for him. Is this kind of language you heard him ever use in your presence?
I've never heard him use that language ever. I think that story is from these unnamed sources is completely fabricated. And even having represented, my law firm had the privilege of representing President Trump in the New York AG case. My partner, Jesus Suarez, Hispanic from Miami, spent 4.5 months with the former president. My other partner, Lazaro Fields, another Hispanic from Miami, spent 4.5 months. My own sister, Jennifer Hernandez, spent 4.5 months with the former president. He was nothing but professional, respectful, and courteous in all their interactions with him.
You think those quotes were completely made up?
I think they're completely fabricated.
Okay, Carlos, before we go, Paula, give me a couple counties that you're going to be watching on election night just to see how the Latino vote may or may not influence this election.
Maricopa County. That's where I will be.
Okay,
Arizona,
Phoenix?
Absolutely. Phoenix, I'll be there. I think Miami-Dade County will be historic because I think, to Carlos's point, I think that does sort of give us a preview of a larger trend. But I'll be in Maricopa County, right? I really want to understand if those folks that were there present in 2020, will they sit this one, or will they once again be inspired by the vice president?
Big battleground county there in Arizona. Okay, Paola, Carlos, always a pleasure. Thank you for this very smart conversation. We want to continue our coverage now of the race to the White House, less than 2 weeks before Election Day, and we are bringing you state-by-state coverage of the battlegrounds here on Top Story. And tonight our focus is North Carolina, one of the biggest battleground prizes on the map this year, and the only one that former President Trump won in 2020. This is how it ended up in 2020, by the way. Since Kamala Harris took over the top of the ticket, Democrats have been optimistic about flipping the state. But new reporting from NBC News shows the Harris campaign is now less bullish about the vice president's chances in the Tar Heel state. One campaign official telling NBC News of all the 7 battlegrounds, North Carolina seems to be a little bit slipping away. This could be one of the reasons why early voting across the country almost always tends to favor Democrats. But in a year where we've seen record early voting numbers in North Carolina, look at this. The number of Democrats and Republicans who have cast their ballots before Election Day so far, it's almost even. A potentially troubling sign for Harris. The other major questions hanging over North Carolina in 2024, the impact of Hurricane Helene, which left nearly 100 people dead across the state and devastated communities in more than a dozen counties. The state has allowed voting rules to change in several of these areas to make voting easier. I want to show you exactly where this is happening. These are the counties right here towards the western part of the state that include Asheville. There's about 13 counties there. The voters there will be allowed to vote in other parts of the state. Tonight, we're going to take you through the keys to a North Carolina win for both candidates and which counties will help us tell the story of the state on election night. I want to start with Vice President Harris. So the first key to victory for her is to drive turnout in Democratic strongholds. Let me show you exactly where these are. So we're talking about, obviously, Raleigh. This area is known as the Research Triangle. Mecklenburg County. This is Charlotte, another big one. We're going to talk about this in just a minute. And another metro area a lot of people maybe aren't familiar with if they don't live in North Carolina, the Triad, which includes Greensboro and High Point and Winston-Salem as well. Another big point for her, the second key for Harris, not getting annihilated in the rural areas of the state. If you look at North Carolina, like a lot of these battlegrounds, there is a lot of red here. But a governor like Roy Cooper, who's the current governor of North Carolina, he's a Democrat, but he was able to win because he was able to make sure he did not get completely annihilated in those red counties. And for the third key for Harris, overperforming in Mecklenburg County. As we were talking about again, this is going to be huge here in Charlotte. It's a county that is majority minority. She has to drive up those African American votes along with the Hispanic vote as well, and make sure those core Democrats show up on Election Day. For former President Trump, priority one has to be maintaining his support in those hurricane-affected counties, many of which support him in very high numbers. When you look at these counties in the western part of the state, with the exception of Asheville, which is Buncombe County, this is Trump country right here. The problem is people here have been affected. They've lost their home. They've lost their livelihood. Some of them have lost everything. Will they show up to vote? Will they try to even vote when they have so much going on in their personal lives? The second key for Trump is driving turnout in the rural areas where Democrats traditionally struggle. Again, look, most of these counties across the Tar Heel state, they are red right now. He has to make sure those voters are motivated and they're showing up not only in early voting, but on Election Day. And the final key for Trump, making inroads with African-American voters in the Black Belt. This is this area right here. This corner in the northeast corner of the state, it's known as the Black Belt. It's a part of the South that stretches all across several states. And they're African-American majority communities in here. And he has to make sure he can get to those voters that are more conservative than the black voters in urban areas. For more on the state of play in North Carolina, I want to bring in Dr. Chris Cooper. He's director of the Hare Institute for Public Policy at Western Carolina University and one of the foremost experts on North Carolina politics. He's helped us a lot get ready for election night. Dr. Cooper, so great to see you. He's also the author of the brand new book, Anatomy of a Purple State, a North Carolina Politics Primer. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. So I am going to test you right now. I'm going to come out of the box firing hard. Is North Carolina a purple state?
Yeah, I think North Carolina is a purple state, right? Of every state that Trump won in the last election, his margin was the smallest in North Carolina of any of them, like 1.3 percentage points. There is a Democratic governor. Of course, they went for Trump for president. In 2008 even, when the last time that the state went for a Democrat for president was, of course, Barack Obama. But guess what? Of all the states that Obama won in 08, his margin was the smallest in North Carolina of any of them. It's a state that's been sitting right on the razor's edge between red and blue, and I expect it to stay there.
Okay, I want to talk about these counties that have been impacted by Hurricane Helene. I mean, we covered the story for weeks. These communities were completely devastated. Talk to me first about how the laws have changed here for those 13 counties that have been affected by Hurricane Helene, and how do you think this affects the overall election?
Yeah, so those 13 counties, the State Board of Elections combined with the North Carolina General Assembly allowed them to move polling places. This makes sense, right? If you've had a polling place that all of a sudden has been destroyed, you might have to move it. They also allowed folks who live in those counties, if they get a mail ballot, to return it to anywhere in the state. So if you live in, let's say, Buncombe County, you had to relocate to Wake County, where Raleigh is, you could then return that ballot to the Wake County Board of Elections without trying to figure out how to get it back to Buncombe County. As far as how it's going to affect the election, this is sort of the $10,000 question in North Carolina politics this cycle. Looks like turnout may be down just a hair in those 13 counties thus far. Those 13 counties, if you add them up in 2020, they went about 55% for Trump, about 45% for Biden. So if there is a little bit of a depression in turnout, you've got to figure that's going to hurt Trump likely a little bit more than it'll hurt Harris.
Dr. Cooper, talk to me about the importance of Mecklenburg County, which is Charlotte right here. I'm going to go back a couple of elections. I'll let you know how far back we're going. Let's go back as far as 2008 here. You can see Democrats are usually north of 60% in this range. They still lose the state. But talk to me about how Mecklenburg could be the key to winning North Carolina for someone like Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely probably the key to just, getting turnout up in Mecklenburg County. So for the last few cycles, for example, in 2022, there was a U.S. Senate race in North Carolina, and the Republican Ted Budd beat the Democrat Sherry Beasley. And the primary reason, really, was that turnout in Mecklenburg County was so low. This is home to a large number of African-American voters. If turnout is bad in those communities, turnout is bad in this sort of blue mecca, I think that's going to be a really bad sign for Democrats moving forward and really tough hurdle for Kamala Harris to get over.
Okay, I want to show our viewers two other counties here that are going to be important in the election. I want you to explain to us why. The first is New Hanover County, Wilmington, North Carolina. There's the University of North Carolina in Wilmington, also the home to the great Michael Jordan, the birthplace of the greatest basketball player ever. Talk to us about why this is one of those big swing counties and why we're going to watch as we pull back here some of the election math. Our viewers are going to see that it's red, 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 and then it flipped in 2020. Tell us, what does that trend tell us?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating county, maybe the most interesting county in the state of North Carolina. So it was, as you just said, red, 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 for at least for the presidency. Then it flips in 2020. In 2020, it also almost looked like a kind of a scattershot map. They voted for Republicans for some office, Democrats for some other offices. In 2022, they voted for the Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate, but the Republican candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives. So if there is a true swing county in the state, I think it's New Hanover County. They're getting a lot of in-migrants to that county. It's getting a little bit bluer, but it's not bluing as fast as I think some folks might have wanted it to be, at least on the Democratic side of the House.
Okay, let's talk about Nash County as well. This is another one of those swing counties that we're going to be talking about. I'm going to go a few elections back. I'll take us all the way back to 2008. You have McCain, you have Obama, Trump, then Biden. I mean, you talk about a swing county, and it seems like this county, Nash County, just north of Raleigh, is where it's at. Explain to us what's happening there.
Yeah, it's a fascinating county, right? So this is, if you said, hey, give me one rural county that means something in North Carolina, it's going to be Nash. So it has flipped back and forth. It has been a swing county in the last few elections. I think it's also critical to know that Nash County is the home of Roy Cooper. Roy Cooper, of course, is the Democratic governor of North Carolina. He's been on statewide ballots in our state since the year 2000. So this is going to be the first cycle in a good long time that the state hasn't seen Roy Cooper somewhere on that ballot for attorney general, for governor. And so I'm very curious to see what happens to Nash, this sort of swingy county. Will it continue to swing, or will the absence of Roy Cooper move it more of a red direction?
Dr. Chris Cooper, a guru in North Carolina, we thank you for all of your knowledge and your help. Check out that book if you can. Still ahead tonight, the political battle popping up on front yards, the fights over political signs. Wait till you see this video. It's turning personal. An anti-Harris sign rigged with tripwire and alarms, another covered in suspicious white power. What's going on here? The growing divide as the end of the race nears, plus the deadly wildfire in Connecticut, the firefighter losing his life as he rushed to put out the flames. And American Airlines accused of mistreating passengers with disabilities. The $50 million fine the company is now facing. Stay with us. Okay, we are back now with the political battlegrounds popping up in neighborhoods across the country. Communities on edge, homeowners on the lookout as some citizens take their civic engagement too far, destroying political yard signs that they disagree with. Now some protective residents are ramping up their own home and sign security. You heard me right. NBC's Liz Kreutz has that story.
They've been snatched from yards, burnt to pieces, and even rigged with booby traps. Political lawn signs for Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Donald Trump, and state and local candidates serving as a visual representation of political dividing lines and a lightning rod for some alarming incidents. In Tempe, Arizona, police arresting 60-year-old Jeffrey Michael Kelly for firing bullets into a Democratic National Committee office organizing for Harris on 3 separate occasions, and also for hanging multiple anti-Harris signs with white powder and razor blades attached.
Let me be clear. Justice does not have a political party. I want to speak directly to those who would consider using political violence or intimidation to disrupt our upcoming election. We will hold you accountable and use every resource available to us to bring you to justice.
In another critical battleground state, Wisconsin, police receiving several reports of stolen and vandalized signs. One letter left behind saying voting for Kamala Harris will lead to blood on your hands. Volunteers fielding complaints from supporters of both Harris and Trump.
We have people coming in nearly every day. I need new signs. Mine have been stolen, and more this year than in the past. My signs have been damaged.
I would guess it's 2 to 3 a day are telling us that they've had signs stolen. This election, there seems to be a lot more hesitancy to actually have people want to put a sign on their lawn.
Trump supporter Ben Ganther says he isn't taking any chances after he had one of his signs stolen and another sign cut through.
They didn't get the Trump sign this time because I had wrapped it in chicken wire. I'm not intimidated, but I just think they're desperate.
A resident in Leesburg, Virginia, who also took matters into his own hands, sparking panic after rigging his anti-Harris sign with tripwire and alarms. Some neighbors called authorities over concerns the devices may be explosives, but the sheriff's office and fire marshal assuring residents the devices were legal.
I'd like to find the tracker, John.
And others taking a high-tech approach. Missouri resident Laura McCaskill putting an Apple AirTag on her Harris Walls signs after she says thieves stole them 3 times.
Could you open the trunk of your vehicle and show us that it's not there?
Using the GPS to track down these young men and their mother, all as cameras rolled. Police confirming to NBC News they are investigating the incident.
Look at a video of this. This is where they all are.
I'm sorry, this is funny. Why don't you just take them all? Here you go, liberals.
With early voting picking up and tensions on the rise, both the sign thieves and their victims seem to agree on just one thing.
It's so stupid. Just go vote.
Just get out and vote on November 5th.
Okay, with that, Liz Kreutz joins us. Liz, learning a lot here. Authorities in Arizona holding a news conference late today about that case in Tempe. What else are we learning about the suspect and the charges he's facing?
Yeah, Tom, so it's a 60-year-old man here. He is facing several charges, including 3 counts of committing a terrorism act. He is accused of, in 3 different occasions, firing into a Democratic office headquarters in Tempe, Arizona, one with a BB gun, once with a BB gun, twice with an actual firearm. And then also this week, authorities say he is the person accused of placing anti-Harris political signs around Phoenix. Attached to that, he had put bags of a white unknown substance labeled biohazard and also razor blades. Right now, he is behind bars tonight, Tom, and he is being held on $500,000 bail.
Okay, Liz Kreutz on the story for us tonight. Liz, we thank you. When we come back, the search underway for a woman who fell overboard while sailing on a Taylor Swift-themed cruise. What we're learning tonight about that missing passenger. Okay, we're back now with Top Stories news feed, and we begin with the search for a passenger who went overboard on a Taylor Swift-themed Royal Caribbean cruise. Authorities say the 66-year-old woman fell into the water near the Bahamas last night. It's not clear how she fell. The U.S. Coast Guard assisting the Royal Bahamas Defense Force in that search. The 5-day cruise, which is not directly affiliated with Swift, set sail from Miami on Monday. An update tonight on the E. coli outbreak tied to McDonald's Quarter Pounders. The CDC confirming nearly 50 people have been infected and 10 hospitalized. Their ages ranging from 13 to 88. 22 of those cases in Mesa County, where one person has died. The FDA and USDA investigating the cause of the outbreak, saying it may have been sliced onions. McDonald's says burgers in affected states have been pulled from menus. A fast-growing brush fire turning deadly in Connecticut. Officials say a firefighter was killed in a utility vehicle while fighting a massive fire which has consumed an estimated 125 acres just south of Hartford. Windy, warm, and dry conditions fueling those flames. The officials say it could take a month to finally put out. American Airlines fined $50 million for its alleged mistreatment of passengers with disabilities. The Department of Transportation said the airline provided, quote, unsafe and undignified physical assistance to passengers that at times resulted in injuries. The department found that thousands of wheelchairs were damaged. At least one of those incidents caught on camera. American Airlines did not admit liability, but says it's spending $175 million on new technology, infrastructure, and training. All right, coming up, the terror attack overseas, explosions erupting at a state-run aerospace company as armed suspects stormed the building. What we know about this deadly situation, that's next. Back now with Top Stories Global Watch. At least 5 people are dead and 14 wounded after a terror attack outside of Turkey's capital. New video shows an explosion at Turkey's state-run aerospace company near Ankara. Government officials say suspects stormed the facility armed with guns and explosives. 2 of the attackers were also killed. So far, no one has claimed responsibility. A tropical storm slamming the Philippines with heavy rain and widespread flooding. First responders seen using rafts to try and rescue people from the floods. Some residents forced to stand on the roofs of their homes while they waited to be rescued. The storm has left at least 14 people dead. More than 47,000 people have been forced to evacuate. And a horse rescued from a collapsed building in Gaza. Footage shows rescuers and locals pulling the horse from the ruins. You see it right there. The workers can be seen trying to get the horse to stand up. Local residents say the horse was in the upper floors of a house when it was bombed, toppling rubble on top of the animal. It is expected to be okay. Okay, next to the alarm being raised by the White House, which it says it believes 3,000 North Korean troops are in Russia and could be deployed to fight against Ukraine. NBC Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons reports from inside Russia tonight, the only U.S. network TV correspondent there, as Putin hosts top world leaders from China and India.
Tonight, the U.S. confirming a potentially dangerous escalation in the Ukraine war. The White House says Kim Jong-un has sent at least 3,000 soldiers into eastern Russia, traveling by boat from North Korea and then training at Russian bases.
If Russia is indeed forced to turn to North Korea for manpower, this would be a sign of weakness, not strength.
The South Korean intelligence service says these satellite images show North Korean troops in Russia. The US says exactly what they are doing is yet to be seen. But if they are sent into combat with Ukrainian soldiers, it would be a dramatic new step.
These are going to be quality troops, so there's a tactical implication.
And it would further globalize a war that has already reshaped alliances. America's ambassador to China telling NBC's Janice Makifreya Beijing is also supporting Russia's war effort.
The government of China is allowing its companies here to export critical dual-use technology to the Russian defense industrial base so that Russia can prosecute this barbaric war against the people of Ukraine.
Today, China's President Xi standing shoulder to shoulder with President Putin and another U.S. adversary, Iran. The BRICS summit of emerging economies meeting in Kazan, Russia, remains largely symbolic, but tonight has allowed Putin to defy Western attempts to isolate him as a war criminal. And with him on stage today, U.S. partners India, Egypt, the UAE and Brazil.
Today, you were standing alongside President Putin and President Xi and President Pezeshkian of Iran. You're comfortable with that?
Of course, we have good relations with them.
Even though you are a partner of the United States?
We are partners of the United States and partners of other countries too.
Are you not at all worried that North Korea apparently joining the war in Ukraine is very dangerous, escalatory?
Well, wars are very dangerous. All wars all over the world. We are against President Lula criticized the invasion of Ukraine.
And do you think it's wrong for North Korean soldiers, if they are, to be joining the war in Ukraine?
No, I never heard about that before.
Well, we're here. Did you not ask President Putin today? We're here in Russia.
We are not. No, but he didn't tell me that. I don't know. We are also against the invasion of Palestine and Lebanon.
Keir Simmons joins us tonight from the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. Keir, the Kremlin has called this year's summit one of the largest scale foreign policy events ever. Obviously, that's coming from them. For President Putin, what does this mean?
Yeah, I mean, strong political optics for President Putin. Nothing really substantial tonight. More than 100 points emerging from the summit, but no solid actual proposals that you can kind of, get a grip on. But one thing to point out, though, he stood there between President Xi of China and Prime Minister Modi of India. Now, of course, China and India have always been, or for many years have been adversaries. There's been huge tension between those two countries. Now, if President Putin was able this week to reduce that a little, to bring India, which is a partner of the US, and China closer together, I think that is a real threat for whoever is the next US president, Tom.
Keir Simmons reporting from inside Russia tonight. Okay, when we come back, we're going to switch gears and talk about the World Series and the moment that baseball is having right now, particularly with fans. So how much would you give to see your favorite team go to the World Series? Well, one Yankees fan dipped into his wedding fund to see the Bronx Bombers take on the Dodgers. So was his fiance okay with it? Guess what? We're going to find out. They're both joining Top Story right after this break. Stay with us. We are back now with a story at the top of mind for baseball fans. The Yankees and Dodgers set to face off in the World Series. And here in New York, it is the hottest ticket right now. Take a look at these ticket prices. These are including the service fees. The lowest price on StubHub right now, around $1,500. The highest price we saw today, more than $25,000. For a single seat. You could buy a car for that much. That will get you right next to the Yankees dugout, though. A spokesperson for StubHub saying they are on track for this to be the best World Series in history with regards to total sales. I'm sure that is true. And for the Yankees, it's been 15 years since their last World Series appearance. Some of their super fans willing to go to great lengths, including some who dipped into their wedding funds to watch the Yankees play. Joining us tonight, Raymond Perez and Brittany Delatis, two people who are in love and engaged and set to get married, and yet you dipped into your wedding fund to buy Yankees tickets. And I'm looking at you like it's your fault. But talk me through what happened and how you guys came to this agreement.
Yeah, so Brittany knows I've been an avid Yankee fan for quite some time. And it's been 15 years since the Yankees have reached this point again. Right. So I just ran it by her. I said, hey, look, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I don't know if it's going to take 15 more years for them to reach a World Series. Right. And, she gracefully said, okay, just let's take a look and see, and we'll work on our budget after. And
Brittany, was it graceful? Was it just like that? Was it that easy?
It wasn't more so questioning me. It was more like, these are the ticket prices, and I'm going to go for it. But he works hard, so yeah. I'm completely fine with it.
Well, I love that you guys are on the same page. So how many tickets are you getting?
So I got 4 tickets.
4 tickets for which game?
For Game 5.
Okay.
Yeah. 4 tickets, so it'll be myself, Brittany's Uncle Jay, and 2 friends. So
Wait. Yeah. Hold on, slow down. Yeah. Brittany's not going?
No, Brittany's not.
Brittany, what's going on here? I mean, this is incredible.
I'm still learning the game. So it's very
Wait, which game? The wedding game or the
no,
baseball game? Okay.
So it would be very expensive for me to go.
Yeah.
If I don't fully understand it, and I decided to give them their moment.
Brittany, let's talk about negotiation and leverage here. So you're doing this for him. What is he doing for you? Has he promised anything in the future?
He hasn't promised anything, but we got engaged earlier this year, and he got me the engagement ring that I wanted.
Okay.
So from that, I said I got to give a little and allow him to have some experiences.
Yeah, and you were telling me you're going to get married in 2026, so you have some time to maybe save up and put into that wedding fund. Where did you guys want to go to get married? You were telling me earlier?
Yes, we plan to get married in Puerto Rico.
Okay, that's great. That's wonderful. Let's turn back to baseball, even though I want to talk more wedding, Brittany, later.
Don't worry.
Let's talk about baseball. Do you feel like there's a moment right now that baseball's having a moment? You have these two huge teams, the Dodgers and the Yankees, superstars like Aaron Judge and Ohtani. I feel like this is sort of a turning point year for baseball, almost like baseball's back.
Yeah, no, definitely baseball's back. There's a big feel. You know, you can feel it. I was attending the ALCS game, and you can just feel the stadium rocking. You have two of the greatest superstars in baseball facing off. The matchup that everyone wants to see. So the ticket prices are the ticket prices, but I think a lot of people think that they're worth it.
You know, the last time they went to the World Series, like we mentioned 15 years ago, that was a special team, right? That was a dynasty team there. You had the greats like Jeter on there. Do you feel the Yankees are at that point, and who are you watching? Who are your favorite players this time around?
This time around, Soto definitely.
Yeah.
Stand-up guy, re-sign Soto.
You got to re-sign him.
I love that they picked up Jazz at the trade deadline. Yeah. Solid defense at third. And, of course, the man of the hour, Aaron Judge, and Stanton playing.
Big G, man. Lights out.
Tremendous.
Come on.
So there's a lot of guys, even Alex Verdugo. He comes through in clutch moments. So the whole team, top to bottom, is great. Torres.
Really hitting the ball.
Hitting the ball well.
We're talking so much baseball. I know we're boring you here.
No, that's
so when he's at the game with your uncle and his best friends, what are you going to be doing? Are you gonna, at least tell me you're planning a girls' night out or something.
I'll probably go to my parents' house and watch it with them. I'll watch the games. I just don't fully understand what's happening.
Yeah.
And it happens very quickly, too. So 1 minute, nothing is happening, and then the next minute, everyone's
You got to kind of
cheering.
get into it. I get it. No, I get it. Do
So
you have
I'll
any
watch it
favorite
with them.
players, Brittany?
I don't, but out of association, Judge.
Yeah.
My dad used to be a Manny Ramirez fan.
Oh, yeah, of
back
course.
in the day,
Yeah.
which is a Red Sox
Yeah, no,
player,
I know. But a great player.
Yeah.
Finally, Raymond, who's going to win?
Yankees. Yankees in 5. That's my hope. I'm going to Game 5, so I would love to see them celebrate. But these teams are evenly matched. So
before we go, is there a side of you, like you can be honest here, this is top story. Be completely honest. Are you hoping they don't make it to Game 5? You get to keep your money, and you did this awesome move for your future hubby?
No.
You sure?
Yeah,
Don't
no,
lie to
I'm
me.
positive. I'm positive. I've been trained to say Yanks in 5.
Yanks in 5. Wow, okay.
They'll be winning that game.
Raymond and Brittany, thank you so much for coming here and telling us your story, and good luck, man. I want the Yankees to win as well. I hope you get to go to the game. And don't forget what your future wife did for you. That is huge. Pretty amazing. All right, guys, thanks so much. And we thank you for watching Top Story tonight. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.